Hope you had a great weekend. The weather was fantastic. Thousands of people in downtown Columbia yesterday for the women's basketball parade. A lot of you in this listening area were also over in Augusta for, what ended up not being the most thrilling Masters finish. I'll give you that. I was not like pulling for Scotty to hit one in the water or something. I guess I just didn't want the other guys to hit it in the water. I love those Masters where it's tight. And then, like, Jim and Nick, or now Jim and Trevor, will have the little graphic, like, after 6, here was the leaderboard. After 9, here was the leaderboard. After Amen Corner, here was the leaderboard. Now as we head to 17, here's the leaderboard. And it's got all that shifting and jockeying for position. And that just didn't happen. Scotty Scheffler, speaking of Nick Faldo, Scotty Scheffler yesterday, 7 birdies in his round, the most in a final round for a champion since Nick Faldo had 8 in 1989. So that impressive. He was just slow and steady all day long, and everybody around him fell apart. I thought Morikawa was going to get it done, and then Morikawa had 2 doubles in a row. Ugh. The Oberg kid, vouch for me here. Bill McDonald is in with Elijah and me in studio on Friday, and he was here for the 3 o'clock hour. So as I am walking back around the table here where I sit to do this show every day, and Bill is out in our little like cubicle lobby area about to leave, I had forgotten to ask him. I was like, hey, who's this Ludwig Oberg kid? I didn't even know it was Oberg. That's how you pronounce it. I just said Oberg. And he was like, oh, watch for him. Because I had read about him that morning. I didn't know of him. I watch golf, and I didn't know of him. Dude, whoever it was that put that in that Masters preview Thursday.
Good call.
Nailed it. I hope some people had him at whatever score if you like to put money on such things. But watch out for him moving forward. And I like Max Homa a lot. Again, I don't really pull against anybody but Reed. I'm serious. I'm not disappointed that Bryson fell off a little bit. Not going to lie to you. But beyond that, I pull for people, some more than others. It was tough to watch Tiger clearly in pain.
Bad Saturday.
Not a great Sunday either, but a bad Saturday, yes. And I think, look, playing a few extra holes definitely caught up with him. He was running low on fumes anyway because he finished late Thursday, had to get up extra early Friday, play 5 holes, and then go play his regular 18. But again, those of you who have been know what I'm talking about here. I mean, it's a 7,600-yard course, and there are so many elevation changes. And sometimes walking downhill when you have a bad ankle, bad knees, whatever, walking downhill can be just as painful, maybe not just as arduous, but just as painful as walking uphill. Sometimes walking uphill actually is a little better because of the different muscles that you're using to kind of get yourself up. And I think those things just were really – and Tiger's not going to let on. He's not going to tell you. You know, when he withdrew from a tournament earlier this year, he had the flu. Yeah, he didn't like go, oh, my ankle. But I just think the grind of this course just caught up with him. And I hope he gets it back at some point. But he set the record for cuts made consecutively at 24. So there was that for Tiger Woods. But congratulations to Scotty Scheffler. That was fun. And we'll talk more about some of the other things with that. Coach McDonald, by the way, is scheduled to be with us next hour. There is a caveat in terms of the event that they're in and what his availability might be. So, he does have a job as the head golf coach of the University of South Carolina men's team.
They pay him more than we do.
So, it's true. It's close. It's close.
We compensate him a lot. In love.
Yeah, that's right. But he is scheduled to be with us next hour, so hopefully we get to check in with Bill and get his thoughts on the tournament. Coach Mark Kingston will be with us coming up for his regular Monday visit at the bottom of this hour, so about 25 minutes away from that. South Carolina with a really nice series victory at Florida. Had the chance for the sweep yesterday, and I know some will be disappointed in that, an 11-9 final. Florida jumped all over Matthew Becker early. Carolina pulled back a couple of times close, and then Florida really exploded in the middle of the game. But the Gamecocks did once again kind of battle their way out to an 11-9 loss, but a really comfortable win on Friday. They had a nice lead on Saturday. Florida pushed all the way up to the limit, but Carolina held on for the 9-8 win. We talked a lot about Will Tippett last week.
Mm-hmm.
Will Tippett this weekend, 4 of 12 overall with a homer, 2 doubles, a couple of walks. Did strike out a few times, but really did, more than double his SEC batting average. Now, that wasn't a huge ask, but I'm very anxious to talk with Mark about what kind of conversations he and Monty Lee have been having with Will Tippett. And I said last week I was going to ask Coach, and I might be able to rephrase the question today, Elijah, just a little bit, since Will had a good weekend. But I'll still ask the general question of where's the line, and how do you as a head coach determine where that line is, that line being I have an elite defensive shortstop, but I also have a shortstop who in conference play was hitting .065 after 12 games. Now he's hitting like 140-something after 15 games in conference play. Because, again, he went 4 for 12. Had a couple of doubles,
Had more hits in the series than he did the entire conference season.
That's
4 times as many.
Right. That's a thing. How big a thing? I don't know. Go do it again. You got to keep doing it. But one of the things that you and I talked about last week, this is your shortstop. This is a guy, the position is one that in this sport, your team is very often built around. Now, I wouldn't say that they're built around Will Tippett. They're not. They're built more around Messina and Petrie in terms of the offense. But your shortstop is still your shortstop. I don't know what else to say. That's a prominent position in this sport, and you need him to be going well. You don't want to be making like we said. This is not a left field platoon. Right. You don't really want to be platooning your shortstop. So it was good to see him get it going this weekend. But we'll talk to Mark about that.
Yeah, because the ball's going to find your way a lot,
yes.
And it found his way a lot, and he made a ton of good plays in the field, and you saw why. As he has countless times this year, why he is not going to be removed from the lineup, even if his bat is struggling, because he does give you so much at that shortstop position. But Jay, one thing I noticed that I was really fascinated with in terms of decisions that Mark made over the weekend that I am very excited to ask him about, and that is Cole Messina hitting leadoff.
Yeah.
And that's something I was looking through all the games this year and looking at the different leadoff hitters that they've had. And if you think about it, a lot of major league teams are doing this now too. It's where you just put your most reliable hitter at the leadoff spot. Doesn't matter how fast they are or whatever. Even though Cole Messina, savvy base runner, very savvy base runner, and he had himself a night Friday night on the base paths. But just having one of your most reliable hitters at hitting leadoff, regardless of conventional baseball wisdom, seemed to have paid off really well because he was hitting the hell out of the ball this weekend, made some really good contact. And when you start innings off that way, especially the first, and you're able to, plate set a little more efficiently for someone like Petrie, who also 2 home runs this weekend, played really, really well, hit the ball really, really well, then you're able to at least get on top of it and at least be able to do a better job of plate setting. Still struggling with runners in scoring position and leaving some on base.
Well, yesterday was not good.
Yesterday was not good.
They scored 9 runs, and I think they were, 1 for 15?
And ironically enough, yesterday was the fewest runners left on base the entire series.
Yeah.
Because they left 10 on in the first 2 games. But even then, I think you're probably more better set, and they were able to manufacture a lot of runs that way. I thought that lineup change was interesting. I'm fascinated to hear what went into making that decision, because I thought it paid off, especially in that first game. Messina played 3 for 5, leading up and hitting leadoff too, and that was an impressive decision. I'm curious to know what goes into that.
I'm looking forward to you asking and Mark answering that. And I'm not trying to equate the two directly here, but the Braves have Acuna hit leadoff. He won the MVP last year. And the point I'm going to make about the sport now, and college has had the DH for a long, long time relative to the National League, but while you have a guy who leads off the game, he only leads off the game in your batting order once. Now, he may lead off another inning somewhere. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's more than you're just going through the rotation. And I can remember even some American League managers back in the not-too-distant past that basically had 2 leadoff hitters, and they'd have one of them hit 9th and then have another one hit 1st. And the reasoning is, well, once I'm through the order a couple of times, I don't know, some innings he's going to lead off again, but other times, you know, my 7-hole hitter's going to lead off.
Unless you're getting no hit.
Yeah. Unless there's a perfect game or some such. Exactly. And so some of that may well play into, hey, you know, some of these bottom of the order guys are getting on. Once we circle back around, let's get somebody at the top. And then you can kind of carry that on. So that's a good observation. Again, Mark will be with us coming up in a bit, and we'll have a full drive around the SEC. A lot. I don't know how many. I got to go back and look. I haven't calculated it all. It feels to me, for a time when SEC baseball may have more parity than it's had, there are a lot of sweeps every weekend. There were 3 more sweeps this weekend.
Including the top 6.
Vanderbilt's now been swept twice. That's just crazy to me.
Number 6 team in the country is 8-7 in their own league.
Yeah. But we'll touch on those things for you. Got some football and basketball stuff to get to as well. How was the parade? Did you throw out candy?
I didn't throw out candy. I was actually more walking around, getting video of the crowd.
Saw some of your FAMS interviews. Those people were pretty jacked up.
Wanted to do more, but you know how hot it was outside?
Very.
I recorded like about several videos. My phone overheated, went down to 1%, and died.
Oh, no.
And died. It was scorching.
Yeah,
it was toasty.
Well, yeah, I got to tell you, yesterday wasn't so bad, relatively speaking, because it's getting ready to get.
It's about to get worse.
Yeah.
And that's what I was telling myself too. I was like, you think it's bad now, buddy?
What,
buddy?
So you're from Central Tennessee.
Yes.
You spent many years, whether it was college in Murfreesboro, which is basically greater Nashville, or in the city itself. Cities always get a little hotter, obviously, just because of pavement and stuff. But like, what's a really hot day in Nashville? Like 80s?
I'd say 91, 92. It's still like that. That'd be a really hot day. Yeah. Seldomly getting to 100.
Yeah.
You know, you might have a week where there's a heat wave and it's like 97.
Yeah.
It would still
so then
get
you've had
warm.
that. I was going to say, because you'll just get more of it here. That's all. You just get more days in the 90s here.
And the difference is, like, there's actual winter there. Like, it snows. Especially, like where I'm originally from, like where my dad still lives, you know, it's... You know, if it snows like 3 inches in Nashville, he's getting 6 or 7. And it's, you know, you get a real winter because it's more in the east part of the
Does Nashville panic when it snows?
Oh, my God. It shuts down. Yeah, the whole place shuts down still.
Wait till you finally get a snow here.
I can't wait.
You get like 6 flakes in this place. This place goes into panic mode. Which is, again, when I rag, you got to get bread and milk. No, you need beer and chips.
That's right.
What the hell are you doing with bread and milk? You don't need any bread and milk.
Hey, I survived on beer and chips at a radio station in Nashville when I got snowed in for a week.
Ugh, that sounds horrible.
I was doing a night shift recording some podcasts that our station was running, and by the time I got in there and to the time I was leaving, there was a layer of ice on the roads, about 2 or 3 inches, and then it also snowed about 3. I was in there for about 7 or 8 hours, and I leave, and I'm like, nope, and I'm not driving out of here because we're on a hill. Like a pretty steep incline, the station was. I was like, nope, my car ain't making it down there. Or if it is, it's not stopping. I'm going straight to the busy road. So I was like, well, I guess I'm staying here. And then the next day, it snowed like 6 more inches. So I was stuck at that radio station for a couple days.
I'd have called like the Mr. Plow Uber, like Homer. That's my name. It's Mr. Plow. Sorry, Simpsons reference for those of you who remember. All right, Mark Kingston coming up in a bit. Our good friend John Whittle, I'm just seeing on Twitter, has some breaking news that might have an impact on Lamont Paris's team. I will give you what John is reporting when the postgame show continues. It's springtime in Columbia, South Carolina. Time to trim the hedges. Time to keep the grass cut. Trim those weeds off the sidewalk with a brand new edger. Or maybe you've got some limbs that have fallen after the latest storms. Time to cut them all up. Hey, save them for firewood. Whatever it is when it comes to power equipment, Cato's is ready to help you out. I did, once again this weekend, use my Toro Time Master with the 30-inch deck. I absolutely love it. Cuts my mowing time in half, and it cuts through everything so quickly. Whether you're cutting your own backyard, whether you do it for a living, since 1983, Cato's is the place for excellent sales, service, and advice. So again, whether it's a riding mower, whether it's one of those cool like walk behind that you ride on mowers, but you actually stand, or a mower for your, whatever you need, or you love what you have, time to get the blades sharpened up, get it all tuned up, the service department can help you out with that too. Family owned and operated since 1983, 4012 West Beltline Boulevard, and always online at catospowerequipment.com. Nineteen minutes after 3 o'clock on this Monday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Coach Mark Kingston coming up in about 10 or 12 minutes. Do have a little developing story here. I don't want to get too far ahead of anything, but our good friend John Whittle has just put this out at thebigspur.com. Lexington's Cam Scott, the South Carolina men's basketball, boys basketball player of the year, and, of course, part of the Lexington High School state championship team, has been granted his release from his national letter of intent with Texas. He has announced that decommitment and will reopen the recruiting process, according to John. Lamont Paris' staff made no secret of the fact that they very much wanted Cam to stay home and be a Gamecock. Texas ultimately was the winner in the Cam Scott sweepstakes. He had lots of offers, huh?
Oh, yeah. Alabama was in on him a lot. Nate Oates, personally, not even an AAU showcase, came to Rock Hill for the live team event, which is just, I guess one of the first high school basketball events of the summer. He showed up personally and was sitting, along the baseline to watch him play a few games. So, I mean, Alabama was really making a push towards the end of his recruitment.
John Whittle reminds us that the 24/7 Sports Composite Rating Index has Cam Scott as the number 34 overall player in America, the number 1 player in South Carolina, the fifth best two guard in the country. And yeah, to your point, John says Auburn, Bama, FSU, Mississippi, Oregon, Carolina, but it was Texas who won over all of those other teams. In his senior season the one that just concluded, 22 points, 6.4 boards, 3.3 steals, 2.5 assists. Finished his career as the all-time scoring leader at Lexington, which has had a nice basketball tradition. So now we wait. I don't know enough, I'll be perfectly honest with you, about what Bruce Pearl or Nate Oates are doing in terms of some portal additions, subtractions, et cetera, how interested they may be in him. Chris Beard at Ole Miss. I mean, that's a lot of it's a lot of good basketball coaches that are after you. Going all the way out to Oregon seems like a long way, but
yeah, the Oregon thing was more so because of Chuck Martin was out at Oregon before last year,
right.
And Chuck had developed a really good relationship. From what I've been told, that they developed a really good relationship. So whenever he went out to Oregon stayed in the mix. I remember sitting, at one of those South Carolina live team basketball events in Rock Hill, sitting next to Chuck Martin, watching one of their last games at the event. So they were kept in contact, kept in touch. Chuck then, days later, got hired away by Coach Cal at Kentucky.
Yep.
And from what I understand, he might there's a good chance that he ends up being brought with them. I know Cal is wanting to bring a lot of his staff to Arkansas. So seeing where Chuck Martin goes could be a variable of all of this that might have some impact if he follows Cal to Arkansas. Arkansas could be, depending on how many players from Kentucky they're wanting to bring over. There's a few that have already hit the portal, but not all have gone back to follow Cal to Kentucky.
Listen, I don't ever fault a young man or young woman for doing what their heart tells them to do. All I'm going to say about I've said before, when this school, South Carolina, has been at its best primarily in men's basketball, and really to a large degree women's basketball. We've been talking about that. Mm-hmm. How many of Dawn's players have been from Columbia or from the state? But so many from Columbia, or at least the Midlands, when you think about, looking ahead to next year with Joyce. It's been South Carolina kids. Again, I go back to my high school and early college years. Coach Felton had 4 starters from Columbia. The whole starting lineup was from South Carolina, and that was a good team, man. It was a good team. They went to an NCAA. Although I think that year Brent Price might have still been starting, so he was not technically a South Carolinian. But the next year they had 4 Columbia starters, and then Jeff Ralston was the center from Somerville. You go to Eddie's teams, 4 starters from South Carolina. Now, BJ was the only Columbian on that team, at least in the starting lineup. But then, Herbert Lee Davis and Antonio Grant off the bench from South Carolina. Again, Coach Odom had some good players from South Carolina. Frank's Final Four team, two starters, big-time starters. One from Columbia, and then Sin was up the road in Lancaster. So you can do it. And then this year, too. I mean, it like as we said, it was a circuitous route for Talon Cooper to get back to Columbia and back to South Carolina, but he did. And you look at what Zach's doing, what Colin's doing. So it's good. You'd like to have this kid on there. Again, you can build quality teams with South Carolinians at the core. You won't get them all, but this would be a big one. And as you pointed out, Frank and Chuck and them, they had been on Cam for a while.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe Lamont got in late. There's a night. Listen, when you go visit the University of Texas, it'll blow you away from every. I mean, my wife and daughter went out there. My oldest, and they came back. They were like, we expected really, really nice, and it was better.
Even surpassed your expectation.
Yeah. So I can appreciate that, but we'll see. So again, nothing to report in terms of where Cam will land. We'll certainly keep an eye on that and try to reach out to some folks over in the Lexington area that may have a little bit more insight on this. But again, will Auburn and Bama and Mississippi as SEC recruiting schools still be as heavily involved as they might have been last time around? A lot of reasons to believe yes, I would think.
Yeah, don't burn bridges. This is why you don't burn bridges, because they could be coming right back around.
Yeah, so we'll see. But again, thanks to John Whittle for putting that out for us. So Cam Scott released from his, again, NLI. Sometimes you want to say
Don't
NIL.
say it, yeah, exactly. It can be tricky.
NLI, and we'll see what happens over the course of the next few weeks. So that'd be a big get if they could pull it off here in town. Because you're
awesome.
keeping Zach, you're keeping Colin. Miles Studi just signed up with Garnet Trust, so he's hanging around.
Jacoby Wright, too,
Jacoby, there's the
Trent
makings.
Noah from the high schooler you're bringing in, your highest rated recruit right now, broke all types of Kentucky scoring records in what is a very storied high school basketball tournament.
Yeah. Oku Federico, and again, maybe you can go get his brother from Pitt. Morris Ogasuk, again, quality first half minutes for that young man when he reclassified. So there's a lot to like, and having Cam come in and be a part of that, and be a local kid to boot, be all right.
Could be exciting
if you can pull it off. So we'll keep you updated on that. All right, let me go ahead and get into it. A timeout here. Coach Mark Kingston on the other side. Have as much time as we can with Mark. Gamecocks take 2 of 3 from Florida. Have a above 500 record after the halfway point of conference play. Now Arkansas looms this weekend. But before that, a trip down to the Citadel. We'll talk to Mark about everything going on around Carolina baseball when the postgame show continues. Time to talk some Gamecock baseball as we do every Monday with the head coach of the Gamecocks, Mark Kingston. Carolina goes down to Gainesville, takes the first two, and nail biter yesterday, but Florida did take the final game of the series. Carolina's first loss in a Game 3 in conference play. But again, more importantly, they had won the first two of the series. Coach, always appreciate the time. Nice trip back home for you guys on the bus from Gainesville. The importance of this series win on the road at this point in the season is what?
Well, I think it concluded a really good week for us. Going back to last Sunday, we beat what is now the number one team in the country in Texas A&M, who appears to be quite the juggernaut right now. They dominated Vanderbilt all weekend, and so we started the week with a victory against them. Then we had a great win against North Carolina on Tuesday night in Charlotte in front of a great crowd, and they're ranked in the top 10 right now. And then to go down to Gainesville and win that series for the first time since 2011, I just think it was one of the better weeks we've had around here in a long time. So I'm hoping we can build on it because it shows the kind of team we can be. But there's still some areas we're looking for consistency. But on our good days, we've shown we can beat anybody.
You and Coach Williams did decide to put Ty Good into the Saturday start slot, the Game 2 at least starting slot. Becker went on Sunday yesterday for you. Neither had terrific outings, but do you see enough to stick with this? I know we've asked you a bunch about how fluid your rotation is. Maybe take us through what led you to get those guys in and where you are now ahead of the weekend series with Arkansas.
It's going to remain fluid. It's just I thought they were solid, but the stats so far have told us that those guys are much better out of the bullpen for whatever reason. So we have decisions to make as we move forward. We get stats on everything, as you might imagine, and so we get stats on how Matthew Becker performs out of the bullpen versus in a starting role. And the same with Ty Good and the same with all of our pitchers. And so as we continue to go forward and get more information on these guys, we're going to make decisions based on what the stats tell us and where guys fit the best and do the best. So I think you're going to continue to see that starting rotation stay fluid until we find what is the best combination of where guys perform the best. And what's the best combination of putting all those puzzle pieces together.
Mark, one of my favorite elements of baseball is just the idea and strategy behind putting together a hitting lineup. And I noticed there's a little bit of a wrinkle this weekend with Cole Messina in the leadoff spot, and he hit really, really well. And obviously you guys were able to put up a good amount of runs. But what went into that decision, and how do you think that might have benefited you here in this particular series?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good look. There were a couple things we wanted to do, with what we did lineup-wise this weekend, and it ended up we scored 28 runs this weekend at Florida. So obviously you've got to label that a success. But Cole and I had joked about that for a while, and actually in the Fall World Series, he was one of the captains on one of the teams, and his team had lost the first game. And in Game 2 of the Fall World Series, he let himself off because he said he just was going to be the tone setter for his team because that's how much he wanted to win. And so I joked, at that point, hey, at some point, you never know, I may do that with our team in the spring. And so we joked about it again about a week ago. And he said, Coach, if you want me to do that, if you need me to do that, I'll do whatever you think is best for the team. And I thought about it some. And if you look around baseball now, the leadoff position has kind of evolved. It's not just the slap-hitting guy that might steal a base. You look at Florida's team last year, and they let off Wyatt Langford, who's already in the big leagues, and Mike Trout leads off, and he's a power hitter. Kyle Schwarber has let off, and he's a power hitter. And so it's kind of evolved a little bit. And so I wanted to see what that looked like with him being the tone setter and kind of being the first guy that the other team has to contend with, both at the beginning of the game, but every time our lineup flips over. And it also allowed us to do something else we wanted to give a shot, and that was to stagger our righties and our lefties. So that allowed our lineup to go right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And so I thought it was a harder look for the pitcher. It's something I've always wanted to do, but the way our hitters lined up, it just so happened that our best hitters were righty and our secondary hitters were lefty. And so we put them in that manner in the lineup. But I just wanted to give it a look. I wanted to give both those things a look. Cole leading off and then stagger the righties, lefties. And I thought it was as good a weekend as we've had offensively in all three games as we've had in a long time.
Talking to Gamecock head baseball coach Mark Kingston. Again, Carolina taking 2 of 3 at Florida. They've won 4 of their last 5 at the Citadel tomorrow night. And then one of the best teams in the country, the Arkansas Razorbacks, in town this weekend. All right, Mark, you've done this with me for a while, so bear with me here. I'm going to ask you a long question and give you as much time as you will take to answer it. Last week on this show, Elijah and I talked with you about Will Tippett and his defense versus his offense. I know you were asked a lot about that and other media availabilities during the week because Will does play elite shortstop defensively but has been struggling at the plate in conference play. This weekend, he goes 4 for 12 with a homer, 2 doubles, a couple of walks, and feels a lot better about himself. So I want you to talk first about just the week that you and Monty and others maybe have had with Will, but then in a more general coaching sense, where you as a head coach kind of draw that line between a guy that you need defensively, but that when it's not going well, you know you've got to do something about it from a personnel standpoint.
Well, that's a good question. It's a loaded question. I will ask you guys a question to see how much you're actually paying attention to our games. So as you put me on the spot all the time, I'm going to put you guys on the spot and see if you can come through. What did you notice different about Will Tippett this weekend compared to previous weekends at the plate?
He wasn't switch hitting.
Correct. That's good. You passed your test with flying colors. Good job, Jay.
Thank you, Coach.
We met with Will Tippett earlier in the week and said, Will, it's this trying to do both sides stuff. It's just not working right now. It doesn't mean you won't go back to it at some point. But instead of trying to be good on 2 sides, we need to focus on your natural side, and we need to give this a shot and hope that it can spark him and spark our team. And as you mentioned, it did. It paid immediate dividends, 2 doubles, a homer, walks. He was a good offensive player for us this weekend. And so I think that's number one. If a guy is bringing enough other things to the table, it buys him time to try to figure out the offense. And with him, there was a tangible change we thought we could make that might help him to be more productive, and it worked. At least it worked this weekend. So with him, because he was playing such good defense, because he was running the bases incredibly well, leading our team in stolen bases, that bought him time for us to try something offensively. And the results we got this weekend were very, very good, and I'm hoping that continues.
I just gave myself a gold star, Coach, so thank you for that.
You deserve it. Good job. I'll be honest, I didn't think you were going to get the answer right, so good job.
Thank you. I don't know what that says.
A lot of confidence. A lot of confidence in you. Nice.
I mean, come on. We've been doing this for a while. You have zero confidence in me, Mark. I do what I can here, but no, I'm kidding. No, seriously, it's good to see because we were talking about this, and I know Elijah's got one more for you, but this is your shortstop. We had a guy call last week, and he was a nice fan, but said maybe a platoon with Lee Ellis, and I'm like, well, this isn't left field, where you can just so freely kind of platoon a guy based on what he may or may not be doing offensively. This is your shortstop, and you can't. Well, you can, but you don't want to do that with your shortstop, right?
Yeah, I would compare it to a point guard. A point guard may have a really low shooting percentage, but if he's getting assists, if he's a great floor general, if he's really leading your team and providing the right chemistry that everybody around him need, you just keep working on his shot until the shots start falling. And that's what I would compare him as our shortstop to. He's an anchor in the middle of that lineup, and we just felt like, again, Lee Ellis is a talented player, and I think he's going to be a good player, but he's just inexperienced right now, and he needs to continue to get stronger to become the kind of player that we look at in that role. So, Will has, because he's done all those other things well, it bought him some time, as I said, and I'm hoping he's a much better natural hitter right-handed because that's his natural side. So hopefully that's something that we found a spark and something that he'll really be able to build on.
And Mark, I know earlier you're talking about pitching and figuring out where people belong best, and that's still kind of a fluid situation. But I think what we know pretty well is that Eli Jones is a pretty reliable starter. Had an awesome game on Friday, and I think his stability was one of the keys to be able to keep Florida at bay. But what's it, I guess, kind of add to have a pitcher like that when you're trying to figure out a whole lot of other roles? You really know what you have with him.
Yeah, he's been our most consistent guy. There's no question about it. He gives us a chance to win. I think he's made 9 starts, and he's made 8 good starts. You know, outside of the one last week, he's made 8 out of 9 really good starts, and that's a darn good percentage for a starting pitcher in this league. So he's everything we hoped he would be. He's mature. He's a winner. He's a great team guy. He's just been such a breath of fresh air for us this year, and I'm so happy for him because he's such a great kid and comes from a great family. He's a great kid. He's a great student. He's a great representative of our baseball program.
Coach, last thing for you real quick. You head down to Charleston tomorrow night. Always difficult to go against the Citadel. They like beating the Gamecocks. SQ through yesterday. He started for you last week. What are you looking at tomorrow night? You know yet?
Yeah, we do. I don't know that it's been announced, and I'm sorry not to break it on your show. I forgot to ask Matt before I came on today if we've made it public yet. So I will tell you it will not be Dylan SQ. We'll go in a different direction just to keep Dylan coming in out of the pen for now. So it will be somebody else. It will not be Dylan SQ.
I'll try not to take it personally that you didn't break it here on the show after you basically just ripped my heart out after trying to follow the team here. So.
No, you passed your test, so
Well,
that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Now, all seriousness, congrats on the weekend. That Carolina goes to 8-7 on the year in conference play. They are 25-11 overall. Again, at the Citadel tomorrow night. We'll have it for you here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia, and then Arkansas in town this weekend. Appreciate you as always, sir. Have a good week. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks, guys.
You bet. That is Gamecock head baseball coach Mark Kingston. Follow up on a few of the other numbers from the Carolina series win at Florida when the postgame show continues. Welcome back in. Postgame Show continues on this Monday afternoon. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Thanks again to Coach Kingston for joining us. If you missed some of that or all of that, if you just tuned in perhaps, I will impose upon Elijah Campbell to re-rack that for you. Industry term.
That's right.
Effort doing that.
I'll effort the re-racking
Thank you.
of that
In the
previous
5
interview.
o'clock hour. Right around 5:15, we'll have some of that for you again.
A lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah. And appreciate the fact that Mark is not so serious as to allow us to have a little back and forth banter relative to, some coaches who might just be like, I'm here to talk about my team and not have any kind of fun at all.
He has fun.
He does. I hope so.
He's a good sport about it.
I hope so. Yeah. I was just glad I got there. I had no idea. I just had to guess. No, I'm kidding.
That would be a remarkable guess.
No, I did know that. So it's good. It's something.
See, even though, even I could be as prepared as possible. If somebody springs up a question and they use the words like pop quiz or I have a question for you. No matter how prepared I am,
Yeah.
I'm going to get nervous instantly.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I did.
Even in school.
Because I didn't know where he was going to take that. I didn't know.
Pop quizzes, will never feel prepared.
And I'll be
ever.
perfectly honest. I had one of my daughters in from out of town, and I did not watch every inning of every game. I did watch some Carolina baseball this weekend, but between the Masters and a few other things, I didn't get to watch everything. I can't do that. And again, I had to cut the grass too. But I did watch, and I certainly paid attention. But no, I did know that part. But anyway, Carolina again has won 4 out of 5, as we said, 25-11 overall. They are back at number 20 in the D1 baseball poll. We'll have that full poll for you coming up in just a little bit. A few other numbers. You heard a good question there from Elijah about Cole Messina and his role. Certainly, they missed him for a little bit, but back with a vengeance this weekend, 6 for 13 overall with 3 runs batted in. Mm-hmm. Again, Will Tippett was 4 of 12 with a homer and 2 doubles and 2 walks, batting only right-handed. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I couldn't ask. Well, I could have asked Mark, but he's not going to see. He'll say, I don't know. He said, well, we'll see if it brings some confidence. My gut tells me for the foreseeable future he bats right-handed. And then we'll, where might you transition back to switch hitting?
If you do,
it's nice to be able to do it. But let's face it, you're going to see mostly right-handed pitching, and if you aren't very good hitting from the left side, you need to stop. I mean, so there's a really good coaching decision. It's not one that you take lightly, and you know that a guy's worked hard enough to be able to switch hit at this level. But it's not. But let's face it, it wasn't happening.
Well, now it's not. Yeah, now it's not the time for experimenting too. Right. If you're trying to switch hit, you have a big enough sample size that says you're struggling to switch hit. Right.
Yeah.
Now is the time, and I agree with Mark on the assessment that if you can figure out that you're most comfortable on the right side, stay on the right side. That doesn't say stop working on your left-handed swing. Still do, and still maybe take some BP left-handed, but at the same time, we're getting to the point now where you got to be able to win games and stack wins on this resume. And if you're helping the team most on the right-handed side of the plate, you should probably be swinging from the right-handed side of the plate, regardless of the arm pitcher that's throwing.
You might not every weekend hit 2 doubles and a home run, but you can every weekend, if you're working at it, go 4 for 12, And
get on base.
Yeah, and get a couple of walks. I mean, and again, going 4 for 12 every weekend is going to be tough because that's a really high batting average. But if you can have an OBP of around 350 to 400 every weekend, it's going to be a big difference in the second half of the season. So, smart coaching decision. It paid off. Carolina wins the series. Dalton Reeves had a great weekend, primarily at DH. A pair of homers, was 4 for 8 on the weekend. And Kent Reichert tells us his slugging percentage was .1375. I mean, his OPS must have been close to 2,000 at that point. He's hitting .360, 4 homers, 12 runs batted in on the season. You ask about Eli Jones as well, Elijah. He had 6 strikeouts in 6 innings of work in Friday's win. Carolina had 15 extra base hits on the weekend. That was 7 homers, 7 doubles, and 1 triple. Those are the good news. There were a couple of things to still worry about. Yesterday, Carolina, I believe, was let me go back and I got my notes here. 1 of 15 with runners in scoring position, and 1 for 9 with 2 outs. Yet they still scored 9 runs.
Yeah.
Boy, if you were 4 for 15 with runners in scoring position,
The damage you would have done.
or even 3 for 15. How much do you win the baseball game?
They did have back-to-back innings restraining the bases loaded.
Yeah.
But there's the difference between both of those. And one, they put the ball in play for all 3 of those outs. The side was struck out in the next inning. So it went from, okay, well, yeah, you stranded the bases loaded, but you at least made the defense have to, or, make the other team have to make a play in the field. Right. Didn't in the next inning. You had the exact same scenario in the next inning, and Florida struck out the side. So there's still a little work to be done there.
Yeah, and again, I know some are going to be mildly disappointed, perhaps, because you had the opportunity to sweep that you didn't get it done. I understand that. I'm certainly I will never call any series win in conference play any kind of failure at all.
Especially if it's a road
But yeah, but when you go to Florida, who I know has been struggling, or as we said a lot last week, both these teams scuffling a little bit, it's still hard to go to Gainesville and win a series, and Carolina pulled it off. So, are they at a point where they've turned some kind of corner after winning 4 of 5, including that nice win over a really good North Carolina team? We'll see. Hour 2 coming up.
is stardom confirmed.
All he needs a little bit of sound there from the gallery at Augusta National, the voice of the great Jim Nantz, courtesy of CBS Sports. Scotty Scheffler wins the Masters, 4 shots win yesterday, just a little bit west of us here. And as Jim said there, stardom confirmed. This is your second Masters. You are now one of 17 players that has won this event at least twice. Threw out on Twitter, when you hit that level now, what can you get? He's only 27. He's the number 1 player in the world. He's getting ready to have one of the great thrills of his life this week when he becomes a father for the first time. So life is good. He also, I know they want to win the tournament. I get it. But you take home better than $3 million when you win the Masters. Now, he'll share that with a few people. But you still take home a nice chunk of change. So not that he was hurting for anything, but now you're even more comfortable from that point of view. I don't know. Look, sky's the limit for somebody who's 27. I don't know that he hits any kind of Jack or Tiger status with that many majors. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Some of the guys run hot and cold.
He's got to win some other ones to reach that. He's tied for second for a few.
And let's see, these next couple of months now, I think, let's see, because he's playing really well. And one of the things that one of the graphics yesterday about this was how well he has been playing each of the last 3 years going into the Masters. He played well last year. Of course, he won it 2 years ago. But in each one, he had a couple of wins going in that calendar year going into Augusta. But now you feel like with the way he's been playing this season and now doing this, that maybe he is hitting a different level. Again, you got to go win more. I get it. You're absolutely right. And not just on tour, not just the FedEx Cup or anything like that. You go win the PGA, go win a U.S. Open, and an Open Championship, and then things start to. But you're not going to win the Grand Slam either. I get it. Although if you did, that'd be cool.
Well, then that absolutely cements yourself as one of the best.
At that point, I would just hang it up.
It won't get any better after that.
Just if you could really do it in one calendar year, that would be amazing.
Retire at 27, yeah.
But congratulations to Scotty Scheffler. Here's one more, the very next cut on our list, please, Elijah. This was Scotty post-match, not only on winning another green jacket, but again, the news that he's about to be a dad.
Cry here, Butler Cabin. No, it's a very, very special time for both of us. I can't put into words what it means to win this tournament again. I really can't put it into words what it's going to be like to be a father for the first time. So looking forward to getting home and celebrating with Meredith. And it's been a long week here without her, but I'm just looking forward to getting home. Congrats.
There you go. Getting home to Texas. Again, I haven't seen that they've had their baby yet. I came in at the end of the halftime show with Tyler and Terry threw a hypothetical at me. You're like, okay, it's Sunday morning. You have a 5-shot lead. You've never won the Masters. And your wife is due any minute, per se. Do you leave Augusta if you get the call that morning? Do you leave and go be with your wife? And look, we can all sit here and kind of, of course I would, or there's not a chance. I'm winning that. I don't know, right?
Right.
I would only say from my own perspective how much I was looking forward to being a father. That I'm, if I really do feel I've got other opportunities to play in the Masters, although I may never have a 5-shot lead going into the final 18, I'm going to go be you only get one shot to be there when your children are born. That's it. Now, you can have other children.
True.
But when your first child, and look, I would hate. By the way, because I heard somebody talking about this morning. Well, if it was his second or third kid, and I'm like, see, no. No.
Because then those second or third kids grow up and they hear this story.
Yeah, they're like, well, the first one was important, but you third kid,
Talk about getting middle child syndrome. Goodness.
So
gracious.
yeah.
That easy.
I think you got to look at it from the point of view of children being born as quite literally once in a lifetime moments. You can make a case somewhere here or there that everything you do is once in a lifetime moment. I get it. That's the way the space-time continuum works. But I'd have probably, I don't know, I'd go, I believe him when he says, hey, if she had called me Saturday or whatever, I'm out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I would fall.
Well, here's the thing. And because life is about taking calculated risks, right? If I knew that my spouse had a chance of giving birth that weekend, I'm not even playing in the tournament to begin with. Because you know what I don't want to do? Wake up on Sunday with a 5-stroke lead, having to make that decision.
Yeah.
So you know what? I will make the decision beforehand to eliminate that from happening. Because if I'm good enough, I can be there every year.
Yeah. That's a good point, man.
What's the difference between missing it that year and missing a year due to injury?
Yeah, I didn't think about that part of it all. And I suppose, look, I'm sure they've had lots of conversations. I mentioned this too. You're like, can I get on the horn with the obstetrician as well? I don't want to talk. I mean, not that my wife or my mom or my mother-in-law can't help me out here, but hey, doc, give me your take.
Yeah, what do you think?
Oh, what's going on
you,
here?
the expert.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you think?
So, and again, he's the number one player in the world. You need to go, but I'm glad he didn't have to worry about that. And they'll go have, again, I've heard names like Little Augusta or Little Augustus, which is what you got to do, man.
Would be fitting.
That's what you got to do. Even if it's, as my wife said, even if it's a middle name.
It's got to be in there somewhere.
Throw that in there, for what happened this week. We're going to talk to Coach McDonald about more of the tournament coming up in just a little bit. One other major milestone yesterday at Augusta, and even if you've been, let's face it, the majority of us watch this tournament on television every year. And yesterday was the final call from the beautiful 16th par 3 for the legend that is Vern Lundquist. 40 consecutive seasons that Vern has called the action on 16. I don't know how many of you have seen that video of Tiger walking over to Vern yesterday, a little handshake and pat on the back from the two of those guys. Vern, listen, those of us around here, especially for so many years, Vern was on the call for the SEC Game of the Week. Vern did, tons of college football, tons of NFL. For those that go back long enough and remember, and I don't, but Vern used to be the voice of the Dallas Cowboys. He's legendary. I mean, he's done so much basketball, in terms of NCAA tournament games. He's just one of the absolute best to ever do it. But I said yesterday, and look, it's certainly debatable, but I was 12. I'm 53. I was 12 the last time someone else was calling the play at the 16th hole at Augusta National. And I love this tournament. I watch it religiously. There's a lot of people who, and this is just me getting personal for a second. Look, nothing wrong with number 12. All right, number 12 is an amazing hole. And the fact that there's nobody around it is what makes it kind of special. The gallery's only up there at the top of the hill where 12 and 13 are. So when they all go play down there, there's nobody there. And it is kind of cool. But to me, 16 is just such an amazing setting that it is filled with people. That green and the way it slopes and how the golfers use that green. I just think the action at 16 and 16, 12 can be pivotal. I don't know. There's just something for me personally as a fan of the Masters and a fan of Augusta National about 16, but it goes hand in hand with Vern Lundquist. I mean, it really just
became synonymous after a while.
It's like Vern calls 16. I don't even know what else to, there are other things in sports, like how I was with, Skip Carey calls the Braves. It was hard when Skip was no longer calling Braves games. That took some time. Bob Fulton around here for, the voice of a couple of generations for the Gamecocks. But Vern on 16, man, it's just 4 days a year. I get it. But it's 4 great days. And again, all the stuff he did in the NFL and college football and college basketball, Vern's awesome. But I'm going to miss him on 16. That's going to be, and I don't know if CBS Sports has announced who's going to do it. I don't think they have. I haven't seen it if they did.
I haven't seen anything.
And then look, somebody will do a fine job. I got no doubt of that either. But I did. I thought about it yesterday. I was like, dang, I was 12 the last time somebody else did that particular job. You know, it's just crazy.
This is wild. That's how I felt when you stopped doing the SEC game of the week in football. It's like, man, there's not been a moment in my life where Vern Lundquist wasn't calling the SEC CBS game of the week.
I've never gotten to meet Vern. He did some games in Columbia, but I never got to meet him. I know he lives in Dallas, and I'm genuinely hopeful that even though he's retired now fully, because he's not done football for the last couple of seasons, I genuinely hope that maybe he makes an appearance or two since SEC Media Days is going to be in Dallas.
Ooh.
That would be spectacular. I may even reach out to some people that live in Dallas that are also involved in this and go, hey, y'all need to have Vern come by, even if he's just making the rounds on Radio Row. But when you do, make sure you
make sure he comes and talks to us.
But that was special yesterday too, and we mentioned it a little bit earlier. You know, it was a tough weekend for Tiger after a first two good days to start the tournament. You know, +1 after 36, but Saturday was rough. I think the grind of this course took its toll on a guy who still has basically no mobility in one ankle and a fused back, and it just it
He's
weighs
glued together.
Yeah. It weighs on you. But hopefully he can continue to rehab and find a way to make a big finish one day sometime down the road.
But he did provide us with an all-time meme. I don't know if you saw the picture of him shaking the hand, but shaking somebody's hand, but that person was standing behind the tree.
That's Vern.
And all you see, was that Vern?
Yeah.
Okay. But all you see is Vern's arm.
hand,
and it
right.
looks like he's shaking the hand of a tree.
Right.
And the amount of jokes that I've seen from that have been so funny. It's like, when I decided to get my receipt emailed instead of printed out, shaking the hand of the tree. There were so many. That has become an all-time meme template. And the hardest I laughed this weekend was seeing the jokes made from that still image.
Right. Now that was when he because Vern, no longer up in the tower. So Vern's vantage point was behind a tree where he wouldn't be in the way, calling the action from there. So that was Vern.
How about
I
that?
did see that.
Vern was the tree.
Yeah, there you go. Real quick, before we talk to Coach McDonald, Jeff wants to weigh in on what's going on or what happened over in Augusta. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, man. How y'all doing?
Good. Hope you are.
I'm doing good, too. All I can tell you, man, is if I had a 5-stroke lead in the Masters and a chance to win $3.6 million, my wife would not even call me and tell me she was elated. She could be on there about ready to spit that baby out, and she'd have just videotaped it and said, "Go win that money, honey."
Yeah.
I mean, ain't no way she would have called me. So that's all I can tell you.
Yeah, it's an interesting school of thought. Thanks for the phone call. Like I say, some guys, you want to do it. And look, Scotty Scheffler is already worth a lot of money, but yes, winning another $3 million plus is that much more money.
It'd be a lot of money to me.
Yeah, I get it. So I don't know. Again, I'm glad he did not get faced directly with that dilemma.
Yes, absolutely.
So.
Life is full of calculated risks,
Right.
And I think he took a very calculated risk.
Yeah. And I'm glad he won comfortably, too, so he didn't have to sweat that out either.
Wouldn't have been bad to totally Greg Norman that thing and still miss the birth of your child if that were to happen. That's the worst case scenario in that.
That would have been rough. So he did it right. Jeff, thank you for the phone call, bud. All right, well, more on the Masters weekend with our good friend Bill McDonald as the postgame show continues. Welcome back into the Postgame Show on this Monday afternoon. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Appreciate you being with us. And we always appreciate the time of our good friend Bill McDonald, who was with us on Thursday as the Masters got underway and is with us now to wrap it up. He and his team are currently part of the Wofford Invitational at the Catawba Country Club, just over the line up in North Carolina. So appreciate Coach having some time for us today. By the way, the Gamecocks are currently in third place, if I look correctly. How are the weather seems like it's beautiful today, so there's that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day. The golf course is kind of tricky. Our guys are they're figuring it out. We did not have this is some high level coaching for you. Yesterday, I got my guys out there playing their practice round, and meanwhile they're on the back nine at Augusta doing their thing. So it wasn't the most productive practice round work, but maybe they're figuring it out today. And man, what a Masters! What a and by the way, a bunch of golf nerds, and it finally broke down to where we're just all watching the app and we're like, hey, look at this hole, and how about that bounce that Homa just got? So it was very much like that, Jay.
Yeah. Well, that speaking of it was 12, right? The bounce that Homa had into the junk there. Man, I felt bad for him because he was playing well, and that's just a weird skip perfectly into something that you can't go play. And I was again, I don't pull against anybody except for the guys whose name rhymes with Patrick Reed, but. Yeah, but I like what Scheffler's doing. And Bill, one thing real quick here, and we'll talk about Scheffler and the round overall that he had. But Ludwig Oberg, as you were leaving, I mentioned this to the audience a little while ago because I had seen his name on one of the preview lists, and I didn't know much about him. I mean, he's still young, played at Texas Tech. He's Swedish. And you were like, yeah, he's good. Whoever it was, I got to go back and find that preview. But whoever it was that put his name in there, like, he's hot. Watch out for him. I didn't see this. Did you?
Well, I've seen him play a little bit just on the fringe of college golf the last couple of years. Not a tremendous. I know he's been like just lighting it up, and for his first major and for him to play that well, to handle the pressure. I mean, he did have a little mental error on 11 yesterday, but that didn't rattle him too much. He finished strong, and I just think. He is what a lot of my friends in the business, Tripp we had on the other day with us. Tripp came down Saturday. We had a fun day just practicing a little bit and watching the tournament, and he called him a generational talent. I mean, and to me, for Tripp to give him that kind of compliment is pretty special. And then yeah, poor Homa. I mean, I think he hit a 9-iron exactly like he wanted to hit it. Maybe missed his number by a step or two, and next thing you know, he's making double bogey. That was this Masters. I'll remember really for 3 or 4 things. One's the wind. I've never seen wind blowing out of bunkers at Augusta like that, and those conditions were just brutal. The how well Scheffler just always handled. I mean, his poor play, people making a run at him, it didn't matter, just unflappable. And then that poor bounce. That it just seems like there's so many years that something weird, wacky happens on 12. It just, Spieth that year has the big lead and makes the big number. I mean, it's just Freddie Couples hits it in what should have been in the water in 1992, and it hangs up in the fringe somehow. That hole, I know Amen Corner and all those holes down there, they're so special, but that one hole is 160 yards of who knows what in the world is going to happen.
Yeah, we talk about famous ones. I was talking about 16 and Vern Lundquist, 12, 16, 17 at Sawgrass gets all the attention as a par 3. And I'm like, I don't know, man, 12 and 16 at Augusta might go ahead of 17, but that's just my point of view. Scottie Scheffler wins this thing. Bill, only 8 golfers under par this weekend at the Masters. What do you take from that?
Makes me wonder if we really do need to roll the ball back. That's one of the first things that comes to mind when only 8 players at a major championship break par. I think a lot of it you have to give to the conditions just that they played in. I think just incredibly strong winds, and we felt it in Columbia. We were all you had to do is step outside and feel the same thing. It was gusting in the 40s. It was those diabolically fast greens. I think it was an extremely interesting major in the sense that 4 of them or so were tied. That's around the time that we started watching it. Honestly, we were trying to play golf, and then I go to my app around the turn when we're more or less making the turn here, and they're in the practice round. They're making the turn at the tournament. I want to say 4 guys were tied. Is that right?
Yeah, give or take.
It was close. Yeah. So that's everything you want in a major. I mean, that many guys with the way the back nine always plays, and is usually pretty exciting. But what a incredible display of how he handles his emotions, how he hits the right shot at the right time, makes the clutch putt from Scotty Scheffler for sure.
And that's kind of what I was going to lead into here. Like, what kind of goes into that mentally when you know you're in a really tight pack? Because once Scotty Scheffler created that separation, he didn't make any mistakes to get him back down in there, and he kind of kept his foot on the gas. And, holes 13 through 18, he ends up being like 3 under par. Mentally, what do you kind of have to battle at that golf course to be able to end up sealing the deal like that when there were a couple of golfers that were able to kind of nip at his heels at the end?
Yeah, it's some of these guys have that special knack for, Tiger was really good at making the clutch par save or the 5-6 footer to keep his round going. Brooks Koepka's gone through that period where he just didn't give in, and you were going to have to beat him, and Spieth as well. We've seen people over the last 10, 15 years, other than Tiger, have the ability to withstand the pressure more or less of starting a round, and then when you start to make the turn, everything's like now we've got the conclusion of the finale of the show more or less, and these guys are able to keep their wits about them and just keep grinding until someone breaks. I mean, that's what we saw yesterday. Guys they just broke down. It's almost like watching the Indy 500 or a Formula One race. It's like those last few laps, guys have a tendency to either have a mechanical failure or a mental failure, and golf's very similar. Those guys are out there for 5 hours and that kind of grind, and that's just also the sense of history that Scotty has, and just knowing he could win it again. I'm sure he was fighting the emotions. Looked like it got to him a little bit there on 18 too, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, good thing he had a nice big lead at that point in time. This is his second Masters. He's now the 17th player to have at least 2. We know there's some guys that have a bunch more than that, but he's only 27. He's number 1 in the world, Coach. Sky can certainly be the limit for him, but what feels realistic in the short term? What might be different about him, in your opinion, than, say, Jordan Spieth, who caught fire early but has not been able to kind of recapture some of that? Does Scheffler have something in his game that you see that tells you he's maybe more mentally prepared for the grind that comes with trying to win a lot of majors?
Well, he does. I mean, starting with just his build, his frame is he's built for speed, what I call a good lever system. He's always going to have the ability to hit the ball a long way, and he's going to have that for the next 20 years or so or more. So the one thing about Scheffler's game that's I think different now, it's not great, but it's definitely better, is his putting, and that's really scary because his strokes gained metrics for his ball striking over the last few years have been off the charts, and his putting's the one thing. And so that's the best I've seen his clutch sort of inside 8-10 feet putting look in a long time. And that's a major indicator for him. And then I think he's just a really well-grounded, just humble individual. I think he's just he's the kind of champion that I like to root for. That's just, he's just your average guy that happens to be pretty good at golf, and he's a lot of fun to watch.
Good stuff. I know you need to get back out to it. Carolina currently tied for second place, day 1 of the Wofford Invitational up at the Catawba Country Club. Hope the guys are hitting them straight. Unless you want them to, fade it or bend it somewhere, then do whatever you tell them to go do. But good luck this week.
If we move. Thank you. I was going to say, if we moved up a spot while I was talking to you, maybe I should stay off the course.
Well, you did move up a spot while you were on with me. So, yeah, there's that. No, seriously, thanks for taking a minute here. Best of luck to the guys, and we'll holler at you before the SECs. Appreciate you as always, as you know.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
That is Coach Bill McDonald joining Elijah and me here. Yeah, they moved into a tie for second.
So we're good luck.
I hope.
That's my only takeaway.
Yeah. Davidson is out front right now. Carolina tied with George Washington and Richmond in second place. But it's day 1 of 2, so you got time.
That's right. Good for George going out there golfing.
That's right. He's
an old man.
He uses those old persimmon sticks. I'll get you caught up on what's going on around the SEC and college baseball scene as the postgame show continues.
Y'all, the basketball playoffs start this week. And you know I'm already going to be watching, but I'm going to have some skin in the game with my new favorite app, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app, and it's a pretty fun game to play. This weekend was able to do a lot. Any Steph Curry, more or less, I was absolutely taking more on. And you can get on this too. Pretty easy. Just download the Prize Picks app. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, baseball entries, you name it. I even did some Masters this past weekend, and to some decent success. Thanks, Tiger. Prize Picks has everything you could possibly ask for. So a bunch of different sports you can do, but for basketball, I'm definitely going Steph Curry, more than 5.5 3-pointers tomorrow night. Just download the app, do 1075 the game for first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code 1075 game on Prize Picks. From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that are causing some slight delay on the roadways here this afternoon. We'll go ahead and start in Lexington County. We have 2 accidents, one on I-77 southbound just after 12th Street near exit 2, and another one on Columbiana Drive at Harbison Boulevard. Here in Richland County, we have an accident on Highway 1 at Augusta Road near Sparkleberry Lane that's causing some decent traffic backup, as well as others on Highway 16 at South Woodrow Street and I-20 westbound at Broad River Road near exit 65. Lastly, we have one reported about 50 minutes ago at US 378 at Pineview Road near Hallbrook Drive.
48th pitch of the game, and it is driven deep to left field. Chasing it is Shellnut. He won't get to it. It's out of here. Talmadge LeCroy drives one over the wall in left field. He got a 93-mile-an-hour fastball, and he deposits it on the berm beyond the left field fence here at Condren Ballpark. South Carolina back on top 2-1.
And Carolina would go on to win Friday night by a final of 10-3 against the Florida Gators, exploding for a few late to really pull away from Florida. Gamecocks take 2 of 3 on the weekend. We'll have more from what Coach Kingston had to say to Elijah and me coming up for you in about 45 minutes or so after our headlines from Integrated Media. In the meantime, let's get you caught up on what's going on around the country with college baseball. The latest D1 baseball poll. We're now halfway through the conference slate for most leagues, certainly here in the Southeastern Conference. Texas A&M is the new #1 team in the country. They swept Vanderbilt this past weekend. Again, that's 2 sweeps for Vandy, or against Vandy, if you will, already this season. South Carolina, of course, being the other one. Arkansas drops from 1 to 2. Kentucky is up to 3 from 8. Tennessee holds at 4. The top 4 schools in the country are members of the Southeastern Conference. Oregon State is 5th, Clemson 6th, Duke 7, FSU 8. So bang, bang, bang with the ACC. East Carolina is 9th, and then Virginia and North Carolina 10, 11, with Wake Forest 12. So SEC at the top. ACC is very strong as you get to the top dozen schools. Vandy is 13th. Louisiana, that's the Cajuns, formerly Louisiana Lafayette. They just like to be the University of Louisiana now, which is cool.
Take out the Lafayette.
Yeah.
Still the Raging Cajuns.
That's right. Oklahoma State is 15, Oregon 16, Irvine 17, Bama 18, Coastal 19, Gamecocks back into the poll at number 20 after a week where they won 3 out of 4. Arizona is 21, West Virginia 22, Virginia Tech 23, Georgia into the poll at 24, Dallas Baptist is number 25, Central Florida, Mississippi State, Nebraska, and Florida all dropping out of the D1 baseball top 25. The RPI is a little bit different. Clemson is actually the #1 team in the country when it comes to RPI, with A&M number 2. South Carolina, as it stands this week, is number 15 in the RPI. Let's see. Kentucky is 4th, Arkansas 6th, Tennessee 7. So, you know, the SEC is well represented, Elijah. And that's one of the things, Georgia 11, by the way. That's one of the things that Mark has talked about. The RPI remains strong, and it will only get stronger. Look, you need to win a few of these, but you and I talked about it, that going into the weekend series at Florida with Arkansas and Kentucky looming, you need a minimum of 4, and certainly 5 or more wins is going to be really beneficial for you. You're going to get the benefit of playing teams that are currently number 4 and number 6 in the RPI. That's how those computers work. But you need to win those. You need some of those baseball games. Getting 2 in Gainesville is a big deal. And I'm not here to be defeatist and say, hey, just don't get swept these next 2 weekends. But considering how these 2 schools are playing, yeah, we'll see. But you'd like to find a way. If you could go 3-3 now in these next 2 series, and get out of that 9-game stretch at 5-4, you should feel pretty good about yourself.
It's very doable. I mean, Arkansas showed a little bit of vulnerability against Alabama here this past weekend.
Dropped their
That's
series.
The first series they've lost this year.
Yep.
So maybe now's the time to get them. Kind of the same way Florida was scuffling going into it, obviously to a different degree, because I wouldn't consider Arkansas to be scuffling. They just lost a series, and they haven't been losing series all season long. So maybe if they're going through a small dip, then this would be a really good time to pounce on that and take 2 of 3 from them. A team that was #1 in the country for most of the year, and just now dropping down off that top spot. So they're a little more gettable now. Kentucky, for some reason, still has not lost, and the fact that they're 14-1 in SEC play is beyond me. So I mean, that was I knew they'd be good this year. I think anybody predicted them winning 14 of their first 15 in conference play. But if you're able to even steal one of those with the way Kentucky's playing, then you count it up as a win. But I think Arkansas is the one right now where if there's any type of trend, it's that then they might be falling back to earth a little bit, or at least maybe there's some vulnerability that you can maybe pounce on.
To give you some ideas, too, Yeah, we know what quad, we talked enough about it in basketball to give you what quad 1, quad 2, and those kind of things are. And the basic parameters hold true for the baseball rankings as well. Kentucky is in quad 1 game. They played 12 quad 1 games, okay? Kentucky in those 12 games is 12-0.
Is that good?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking here. Nobody else that has anywhere close to that number of games is that good. It feels like. I mean, Clemson's 10-1. That's impressive. But even, let's see, like Arkansas is 4-4. They've only played 8 quad 1 games, Arkansas. That's it.
Surprisingly.
Yeah. North Carolina is 5-5. Tennessee is 6-5. For what it's worth to you, South Carolina is 9-9. The Gamecocks have played. I'm trying to see here. Wake Forest has played 18. They're 8-10. Carolina's played 18. Alabama has played 18 quad 1 games. So there aren't a lot of schools that have played that many. South Carolina's got a pretty good record, when you look at it from that perspective. But Kentucky, 12-0 in quad 1. They actually have a quad 4 loss. I don't know who that was against, and 4 quad 2 losses. So South Carolina is in good shape right now. Now, I'm not here to tell you don't worry about it. I'm not here to tell you they're world beaters. You're going to be tested severely these next 2 weeks. How do you come out of it? If you could find a way to win each series, you should feel really good about it. But like I say, if you can split these, considering where Arkansas and Kentucky are right now, that to me is acceptable because, like I said, in that 9-game stretch that included the trip to Gainesville, you could come out of it at 5-4. Then you'll be in pretty good shape. But yeah, you're right. This weekend, maybe there's, the one thing that's still above any other. There's a few things that still concern me about Carolina. There's no doubt. The pitching instability when it comes to the rotation is a concern.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how big a one if you're still winning these games, how much it matters to the guys, et cetera. I don't know. Good and Becker got hammered.
Yeah, he did not have a good outing.
Yeah, I mean, Florida hit him early and often, and he was done. And then SQ came in and did all right. But then Florida, again, had another big inning, and the Gamecocks chipped away to make it a 2-run loss yesterday. Good was okay on Saturday.
Rough first inning.
Yeah, but he wasn't terrible. But for those, and again, you'll hear it later, but I'll just reiterate what Mark said. They feel like the numbers tell them that Good and Becker are better for this team when coming in relief. So, Kimball has been pitching better of late. Do you see him move into the weekend rotation? Does SQ find a way back into it? Trying to find out who's going to start tomorrow. Mark said it will not be SQ tomorrow. Is it Eddie Copper again? Do you start going to an opener where it's going to be a bullpen game regardless? Like there's a lot of different things at their disposal. And I don't know, at some point you do, and I agree, Jack Beltry had a piece this week after the game yesterday. You'd like to see some form of rotational stability kind of start to line up. If it doesn't, but again, you can find a way to keep winning series, I suppose that's a nice problem to have.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the overall, starting role or tabbing somebody as a, X day starter might be a little overrated, but you got to be able to at least get, quality 3 or 4 innings from that pitcher too. Because, I mean, it's just going to, if you are doing openers on multiple days in a week, you're going to be very slim pickings in some of the games in terms of the arms you're able to deal out there, and managing them is going to be a whole lot more difficult. But yeah, it'd be nice to, for other than Eli Jones, knowing exactly what you're going to go into each weekend too, especially considering these next 2 weekends are teams that have combined records of 60-10.
Update you on a developing story that could have an impact on South Carolina men's basketball. We'll explain as the postgame show continues. Welcome back into the Postgame Show on this Monday afternoon. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Coming up next hour, our integrated media headlines of the day. WNBA draft tonight. Where is Camila Cardoso projected to go? We'll also have a little Dawn Staley sound as part of the headlines today. More from Coach Kingston, a recap of the weekend in college baseball. Around the SEC, all for you in the final hour of today's program. Our craft beer card is back. You can spend $30 at $30 per brewery at 12 different locations all across the Midlands. 12 times 30 is $360. That means it's a $360 value, and it only costs you $79.
That's a steal.
It's almost like stealing. You do have to pay for it, but, I mean...
Legal stealing?
Something like that. If you are interested to see all the different breweries and how to get one of these, it's easy. Go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, or as Ford says, find the spinny, clicky thingy.
Very descriptive.
Yeah.
But very accurate.
Industry term.
I'm efforting trying to find exactly how accurate it is, but it is an industry term.
Again, 1075thegame.com. The craft beer card is back. All right. So others have put this out too. I am referencing a piece from our very good friend John Whittle, but South Carolina could be in a position to land Cam Scott, the former Lexington star. I guess until he graduates high school, he's still a Lexington star. Is that fair?
He's not playing for the team anymore.
Well, okay.
He will no longer appear in a Lexington High School
Former
jersey.
Lexington basketball player, but current Lexington High senior
Student.
Cam Scott, who had committed and signed with Texas, has asked out of his national letter of intent and would like to reopen his recruitment. Now, he does not say, I want to go to South Carolina. Auburn, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida State were among the schools that heavily recruited him, in addition to the Gamecocks. Again, ultimately chose to sign with the University of Texas. But we do know, and Elijah, you talked about this earlier, and I'm going to toss it over to you. Both the Frank Martin and Lamont Paris staffs recruited Cam heavily. They wanted him, and he's the best player in South Carolina this year. Lexington won a state championship. He's going to leave as a Wildcats all-time leading scorer. He's an athletic too, so there's a lot to like about what he could offer a college program. Does he want to come back home, or does he just want to open his recruitment up, and just not be in Austin? We don't know these things yet.
Yeah, there's still a lot, to flesh out here, but I think South Carolina's definitely. I would say they're definitely in. Back when he committed to Texas, at his commitment ceremony, he was asked, exactly how close was South Carolina in the running, to be the team that you chose to play for. And he said very close. He said that Texas was a very close to. So that would automatically lead me to believe that if he's opening up his recruitment, that South Carolina has a leg up on maybe some other schools. I also still wouldn't count out Alabama because I know Nate Oates aggressively pursued him this past summer. And he's already, been vocal about his relationship with Chuck Martin, has a good relationship with Chuck Martin, who's been recruiting him for a long time since Chuck was on the staff here at South Carolina. Chuck is now on the Arkansas staff. I didn't get confirmation. He is on the Arkansas staff, did go there with Coach Cal when Cal took the job in Fayetteville. So maybe Arkansas can be in there, maybe. But I do think, if you just straight opinion here, I think South Carolina probably has the best chance when it comes to getting Cam. And look, I think it helps that you had the year that you did and that there's clearly a lot of upward momentum with this program right now. And it would definitely make it a whole lot easier to be able to stay and play here when you know that you have a team that can play with just about anybody in the SEC.
And you've got a good returning core. Look, you're losing Michi and Talon's going to be difficult, and BJ. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But you got Zach coming back. You got Colin coming back. Again, Morris Ugasuk had some time to start to get better. Who am I forgetting?
Miles Studi.
Miles Studi just signed up with Garnet Trust. Thank you. I knew I was forgetting somebody that was coming back. So there's a lot to like here. And Lamont's going to be aggressive in the portal again. I expect South Carolina probably goes and gets their new starting one through the portal. Mm-hmm. And again, who's I mean, NIL is going to have a lot to say in this at other schools.
Absolutely.
I don't have any doubt of that. Not that you got to necessarily outbid somebody all the time for some of these kids' services, but you want it to be attractive. And being local may offer some different opportunities. He's already a known commodity. So in the NIL space, you talk about Carolina maybe having a leg up from a basketball perspective. There may also be a leg up in the ability to get endorsement opportunity here in Columbia.
Certainly.
So, I mean, I do think that's another reason that it's good that there's now only the one collective, and soon enough, the school will have a lot more control over that. Even not to say they're doing anything wrong, just that I think that's better for everybody.
From an organizational standpoint.
Yes, across the country. I don't mean that specifically here. Across the country, I think that those things need to move in-house as soon as allowable, which should have been yesterday, but
better late than never.
They hadn't done that yet. So we'll keep you posted on that. But some interesting news that's out today. Cam Scott wants out of his NLI at Texas. Headlines of the day. Drive around the SEC. Coach Kingston interview all coming up in the final hour of the postgame show. When it comes to the HVAC industry, do you feel like you are the best of the best as an employee, tired of feeling undervalued where you currently are, ready to take your career to the next level? Look no further than Roy and Dana Finley and their team at AAA Heating and Air. They don't want to just offer you a job. They want to offer you a career. Terrific benefits, compensation packages that are specifically designed for you. Whether it's the flexibility of hourly pay, a salary, commission, or a combination of all three, they can help you do that. And that's not all. You'll enjoy perks like 2 weeks paid vacation, comprehensive insurance, 401k, company vehicle, company computer, tablet, phone. Hey, these are great people to work for, I'm telling you. And, listen. People need the great service that AAA provides. If that sounds like something you're interested in, log on to call AAAtoday.com or call them up at 803-677-1500. Tell them you want to be part of the family at AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Center, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that are causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll go ahead and start off with some good news. and that is that an accident has been cleared on I-20 westbound at Broad River Road near exit 65, so traffic's running a little more smoothly there on 20 West. We still have a couple accidents to get to, though. One in Lexington County on Columbiana Drive at Harbison Boulevard. That one's been causing some delay for about the last 30 minutes or so. We also have one on Hugh G. Street at Blossom Street, one on Shop Road at Pineview Road, and lastly, one on US 378 at Pineview Road at Hallbrook Drive.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Monday. Welcome back in. Also, the final hour of the postgame show, along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll start with Carolina baseball. Mark Kingston's club goes 3-1 on the week. The defeat of North Carolina. Talked a lot about that last week. And then taking 2 of 3 down at Gainesville. South Carolina improves to 25-11 on the season. 8-7 now in conference play. They won Friday night 10-3, pulled away late in that one. Had to hang on for a 9-8 win on Saturday. And yesterday, Florida jumped out early and then took a second pretty big lead after Carolina had pulled tight. Gamecock scored 4 late, but was not enough. They lose 11-9, but again improved to 25-11, 8-7 in conference play. Some pretty good weekends for several players. Cole Messina was 6 for 13 with 3 runs driven in over the weekend. Will Tippett got his bat going. He was 4 for 12 with a homer, 2 doubles, also drew 2 walks. And he had really been struggling at the plate of late, so a nice weekend for him. The team overall had 15 extra base hits in Gainesville. 7 home runs, 7 doubles, and 1 triple on the weekend. So South Carolina is next at the Citadel. That's tomorrow night down in Charleston. We'll have it for you beginning at 6:45 here in Columbia and across the Gamecock Radio Network. And then Arkansas, now the number 3 team in the country, comes to town this weekend. Arkansas dropped their series at Alabama. We'll have the full SEC baseball report for you coming up in just a little bit. Yesterday, about a block from us and all down Main Street, a huge day for Carolina. South Carolina women's basketball celebrating their 3rd national championship. I saw some of the drone shots, Elijah. I'm not good at crowd guesstimates. You were amongst the throng.
Indeed.
I mean, I don't know, man. 10,000, 15,000. It was hard to tell, but a lot.
Yeah, I'm also not very good at crowd estimates, but I am good at saying if there's a lot of people at a certain place or not. You know what I can confirm? There are a lot of folks there.
A lot of people.
A lot of garnet, a lot of black.
Couple of things here.
Gave out a ton of stickers.
Yeah, that's right. And you got some great interviews. Check out our Twitter feed, Instagram page too, 1075 The Game, I think is both of their Twitter handles or the Instagram handle.
That's right.
They're supposed to call it X now, but
I will never. No, I refuse. That's a personal protest.
Yeah, I just can't
of mine.
do that.
I will not do that.
Cut 20, please, sir. Dawn Staley speaking to the crowd on just some of the blessings around Carolina basketball.
I saw a lot of uncommon favorite T-shirts. And I don't know if everybody really understands what uncommon favor is. I'm going to sum it up because I grew up in a household where I had to be disciplined. Right? Uncommon favor is when your mother or your father told you, I can show you better than I can tell you. It's quite simple. After we planned to be here last year during this time, it wasn't hard this time. It wasn't. And it was a devastating loss to all of us that were part of it. And I was hurt, deeply hurt, deeply. Not to destroy my faith, but I did ask why. I did. And most of us that really understand, we need to know. And we need to know what we need to know. But God sometimes says, I can show you better than I can tell you.
Good stuff from Coach Dawn. The philosophy works, man. All of it does. All of it does. One more from Dawn that I want you to hear from Tahina Paopao as well. Coach on, look, I here's the thing. People ask me, what do you think about the next Carolina women's basketball game? And I keep saying, all season, last couple of years, and I don't mean this in like any kind of, look, I'm just some dude. I just say, I expect them to win every game they play. That's what she has built. I expect them to win every game they play. Dawn Staley on how she looks at something similar when she says, expect the unexpected.
But at the beginning of this season, I don't know why I said this. They actually asked me to say something on camera. Give me one word that's going to describe our season this year. And like me, I said, expect the unexpected. I don't know why I said it, but I said it. And because I felt like we had enough on paper to, whether that ends up in a national championship level or not, I didn't know. But again, these players actually, and I have to go to our theme of this year, these players loved up on each other, unconditionally created a bond that created a heightened level of competitiveness to say, you can play us for a quarter, you can play us for 2 quarters, you can play us for 3 quarters. But by the time that 4th quarter comes around, we aren't going to lose.
That's what I'm saying. I just, if they had lost, I would have been surprised. This year they didn't. When they did the last couple of seasons, I was surprised. Again, an overtime loss. What was the 3 losses that they've had in the last couple of seasons are a combined 7 points.
Insane. Insane.
What are they, 109 and 3?
109
in the last 3 years?
Yep.
It's just remarkable, man. That's that.
And assuming that if they go undefeated in non-con play this upcoming year, they will have gone at least over a calendar year without losing.
Of course, you'd like to do it again, right? And Tahina Paopao was a huge part of this year's team, transferring in from Oregon as one of the best players in the Pac-12. She announced it's going to be one more season in Columbia. Here's what she wants to do next year.
Well, on behalf of my team and I, first and foremost, we got to give all the glory to God. Champs, we wouldn't be undefeated, and we just got to thank him for giving us a healthy season and bringing us to this long season. And second, we just want to thank everyone who supported us throughout this journey. Thank our athletic staff, our band, our fans, you guys, and especially our coaching staff who brought this group of girls together to love each other, play selflessly, and just compete and have fun with each other. And lastly, in the words of Reverend Crockett Johnson, it's time for a tour.
They are the overwhelming favorite to win another championship next year. Look, Connecticut's going to be good. LSU will be fine. Tennessee, we'll see as they go into transition. The ACC teams that are good, we'll find out. And, again, I expect South Carolina to go in and win every game they play. Will they do that again? The odds are probably not in your favor to win every game you play. But that's okay. You don't have to win every game you play. You just want to win those 6 in March.
That's right. And they're more equipped.
April.
They are more equipped than any team in the country to do that on a year-to-year basis, especially considering the only 2 players they're really losing are Camilla and Sakima.
Yeah.
And Sakima didn't play a ton of minutes towards the end.
And you're bringing Joyce Edwards in.
Oh, yeah. And then another McDonald's All-American.
Yeah. So, yeah. You've got 3 McDonald's All-Americans coming in. You probably find somebody, if it's the right fit, like Tahina was, in the portal, you'll do it if you find that person. If you don't, I think you're pretty loaded.
Is there a team in the country, men or women's, that can sit back in this transfer portal craziness and say, you know what, I don't think we need to do anything quite like the South Carolina team?
I don't think there is, man.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no.
every team, men or women, look at who's coming back for the teams that we're going to consider contenders.
Right.
I guarantee you on every single one of those rosters, you said you can use a veteran three-point shooter. You can use a veteran rebounder and defender. You can use a veteran point guard or maybe a good backup point guard, somebody who's had a lot of experience running an offense. You can certainly poke holes through a lot of rosters and say, you know what, a veteran X player can help here. This might be the one where it says, I don't know where there's room for another veteran player. There might not be. There's not a lot of vacancy here on this roster right now. You're already bringing back the most loaded roster in the country next season. You might be the only person or the only team really in this position.
The Masters, of course, is done. The 88th playing over in Augusta. Scotty Scheffler wins his second green jacket in the last 3 years. Just a slow and steady 4 days, 66, 72, 71, 68. Yesterday, Scotty made 7 birdies. That's the most in the 4th round by a Masters champion since Nick Faldo had 8 birdies en route to a win back in 1989 for his efforts. He picks up 750 FedEx points, which he can use at any FedEx store nationwide.
That's a lot of boxes he can get. A lot of packing tape.
He also gets $3.6 million.
You can buy a lot of packing tape with that, too.
You sure can. Sweden's Ludvig Åberg, who, again, I knew very little of, but was told, hey, watch out for this dude because he's been tearing it up. He played his collegiate golf in Lubbock at Texas Tech. He finished 7 under, alone in second place for his troubles. He gets $2.16 million and 400 FedEx points. But he can't use his nationally, only in Texas and other parts of the South.
Yeah, kind of rip off, but that's whatever.
Yeah, but you're not going up to the Northwest to send anything from FedEx anyway. I'll stop doing that now. Tommy Fleetwood, Max Homa, Colin Morikawa finish in a tie for third at 4 under par. They each get $1.04 million. Cam Smith, Bryson DeChambeau tied for 6th, $695,000. Xander Schauffele alone in 8th, $620,000. A 3-way tie for 9th with Will Zalatoris, Terrell Hatton, and Cam Young. They each share $540,000. And again, only 8 players at this year's Masters finished under par, which, as Coach Bill McDonald told us, well, maybe they don't need to have this ball rollback measure take place.
Nope.
That was surprising.
It's hard enough as is.
I think because so many scores were high Thursday and Friday because of the weather and the wind. And the wind Friday was amazing. Wow. Saturday was about as perfect as you could ask for. Yesterday it was hotter, obviously.
Not a cloud in the sky.
But beautiful weather. So but congratulations to Scotty Scheffler, his second. And by the way, Scotty Scheffler also has second place finish at the U.S. Open, a second place finish at the PGA Championship, and I think his best at the Open is a finish in 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's got the 2 Masters, but he's been close at the other big ones. And you do wonder if this is one of those kinds of years, if he's set up for it. He's been playing fantastic golf. And again, as Coach McDonald told us, what's scary now about him, he's got the demeanor and his length off the tee and his iron play are great. Now he's really focused in on what he's doing putting wise, and he's becoming that much more elite.
His iron play is one thing that I noticed a lot this past week. He was electric with it. I mean, there were a couple of really good shots. He was on it.
WNBA draft is tonight. The latest mock from Michael Vopel of ESPN certainly has Caitlin Clark going number 1 to become a teammate of Aaliyah Boston's at Indiana. The L.A. Sparks, he says, will take Cameron Brink, the forward from Stanford. Camila Cardoso, projected 3rd to Chicago. Rakia Jackson of Tennessee, 4th to L.A. Aaliyah Edwards of UConn, 5th to Dallas. J.C. Sheldon of Ohio State, 6th to Washington. And Angel Reese could become a teammate of Caitlin's and Aaliyah's. Michael Vopel has her going to the Chicago Sky as well.
So. She'd be teamed up with Camilla.
Wow. I'm sorry. Yeah. Not Indiana. My bad. Camilla. My bad. Yeah, looking at that the wrong way. Sorry. I knew what I was trying to say.
I'm sure that'd be a fun first practice.
That'll be interesting.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for that. Just to see the first practice.
Here
for it.
I guess you can get over it, right?
Should be able to.
Maybe. Never mind. I was going to say Camilla could just pull her hair once and then
show her the ring that she got. The 2 rings she's won.
Yeah, but Angel has one.
She has one, but
Camilla has 2.
Camilla's got double the amount of that.
That would be more, wouldn't it?
That is. I'm not great at math, but I do know that one.
That's our integrated media headlines of the day, whether it is the simple installation of your new video doorbell, whether it's moving great equipment from one part of the house to another, to a complete home theater and security installation. Integrated media, ready to make it happen. No job too big, no job too small. Whatever you need from those guys, ready to make it happen. 803-948-8327. Let me recommend an outdoor system, because they're really, really nice. 803-948-8327, Integrated Media. What did Mark Kingston have to say about the series win over Florida? You'll hear it next. Love telling you about Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. Since 1936, Palmetto Citizens has been part of the Midlands, going the extra mile for their members, no matter how many commas they have in their account. All your basic banking needs, checking, savings, credit cards, they can do that for you. A lot of ATMs you can use all across the country. In addition to that, mortgages, home equity lines, car loans, student loans, anything you might need for you and your family, Palmetto Citizens has it. And because they're not for profit, they can offer you lower rates and fewer fees. My wife and I have enjoyed our times as customers of Palmetto Citizens. We use the Millwood branch. They've got 14 all across the city. So again, for any and all of your banking needs, check them out online at palmettocitizens.org. You can apply there or learn more, or again, stop into any branch and see what they can do for you. Again, since 1936, Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union, helping the Midlands achieve your potential. All right, let's jump right in. We talked to Coach Mark Kingston earlier for his regular Monday visit. Gamecocks taking 2 of 3 down at Florida, and we started Coach off asking him the importance of this series win.
Well, I think it concluded a really good week for us. Going back to last Sunday, we beat what is now the number 1 team in the country in Texas A&M, who appears to be quite the juggernaut right now. They dominated Vanderbilt all weekend, and so we started the week with a victory against them. Then we had a great win against North Carolina on Tuesday night in Charlotte in front of a great crowd, and they're ranked in the top 10 right now. And then to go down to Gainesville and win that series for the first time since 2011. I just think it was one of the better weeks we've had around here in a long time. So I'm hoping we can build on it because it shows the kind of team we can be. But there's still some areas we're looking for consistency. But on our good days, we've shown we can beat anybody.
You and Coach Williams did decide to put Ty Good into the Saturday start slot, the game 2 at least starting slot. Becker went on Sunday yesterday for you. Neither had terrific outings, but do you see enough to stick with this? I know we've asked you a bunch about how fluid your rotation is. Maybe take us through what led you to get those guys in and where you are now ahead of the weekend series with Arkansas.
It's going to remain fluid. It's just I thought they were solid, but the stats so far have told us that those guys are much better out of the bullpen for whatever reason. So we have decisions to make as we move forward. We get stats on everything, as you might imagine, and so we get stats on how Matthew Becker performs out of the bullpen versus in a starting role, and the same with Ty Good, and the same with all of our pitchers. And so as we continue to go forward and get more information on these guys, we're going to make decisions based on what the stats tell us and where guys fit the best and do the best. So I think you're going to continue to see that starting rotation stay fluid until we find what is the best combination of where guys perform the best and what's the best combination of putting all those puzzle pieces together.
Mark, one of my favorite elements of baseball is just the idea and strategy behind putting together a hitting lineup. And I noticed there's a little bit of a wrinkle this weekend with Cole Messina in the leadoff spot, and he hit really, really well. And obviously you guys were able to put up a good amount of runs. But what went into that decision, and how do you think that might have benefited you here in this particular series?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good look. There were a couple things we wanted to do, with what we did lineup-wise this weekend, and it ended up we scored 28 runs this weekend at Florida. So obviously you've got to label that a success. But Cole and I had joked about that for a while, and actually in the Fall World Series, he was one of the captains on one of the teams, and his team had lost the first game. And in Game 2 of the Fall World Series, he let himself off because he said he just was going to be the tone setter for his team because that's how much he wanted to win. And so I joked, at that point, hey, at some point, you never know, I may do that with our team in the spring. And so we joked about it again about a week ago. And he said, Coach, if you want me to do that, if you need me to do that, I'll do whatever you think is best for the team. And I thought about it some. And if you look around baseball now, the leadoff position has kind of evolved. It's not just the slap hitting guy that might steal a base. You look at Florida's team last year, and they let off Wyatt Langford, who's already in the big leagues, and Mike Trout leads off, and he's a power hitter. Kyle Schwarber has let off, and he's a power hitter. And so it's kind of evolved a little bit. And so I wanted to see what that looked like with him being the tone setter and kind of being the first guy that the other team has to contend with, both at the beginning of the game, but every time our lineup flips over. And it also allowed us to do something else we wanted to give a shot, and that was to stagger our righties and our lefties. So that allowed our lineup to go right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And so I thought it was a harder look for the pitcher. It's something I've always wanted to do, but the way our hitters lined up, it just so happened that our best hitters were righty and our secondary hitters were lefty. And so we put them in that manner in the lineup. But I just wanted to give it a look. I wanted to give both those things a look. Cole leading off and then stagger the righties, lefties. And I thought it was as good a weekend as we've had offensively in all 3 games as we've had in a long time.
Talking to Gamecock head baseball coach Mark Kingston. Again, Carolina taking 2 of 3 at Florida. They've won 4 of their last 5 at the Citadel tomorrow night. And then one of the best teams in the country, the Arkansas Razorbacks, in town this weekend. All right, Mark, you've done this with me for a while, so bear with me here. I'm going to ask you a long question and give you as much time as you will take to answer it. Last week on this show, Elijah and I talked with you about Will Tippett and his defense versus his offense. I know you were asked a lot about that and other media availabilities during the week because Will does play elite shortstop defensively, but has been struggling at the plate in conference play. This weekend, he goes 4 for 12 with a homer, 2 doubles, a couple of walks, and feels a lot better about himself. So I want you to talk first about just the week that you and Monty and others maybe have had with Will, but then in a more general coaching sense, where you as a head coach kind of draw that line between a guy that you need defensively, but that when it's not going well, you know you've got to do something about it from a personnel standpoint.
Well, that's a good question. It's a loaded question. I will ask you guys a question to see how much you're actually paying attention to our games. So as you put me on the spot all the time, I'm going to put you guys on the spot and see if you can come through. What did you notice different about Will Tippett this weekend compared to previous weekends at the plate?
He wasn't switch hitting.
Correct. That's good. You passed your test with flying colors. Good job, Jay.
Thank you, Coach.
We met with Will Tippett earlier in the week and said, Will, it's this trying to do both side stuff. It's just not working right now. It doesn't mean you won't go back to it at some point. But instead of trying to be good on two sides, we need to focus on your natural side, and we need to give this a shot and hope that it can spark him and spark our team. And as you mentioned, it did. It paid immediate dividends, 2 doubles, a homer, walks. He was a good offensive player for us this weekend. And so I think that's number one. If a guy's bringing enough other things to the table, it buys him time to try to figure out the offense. And with him, there was a tangible change we thought we could make that might help him to be more productive, and it worked. At least it worked this weekend. So with him, because he was playing such good defense, because he was running the bases incredibly well, leading our team in stolen bases, that bought him time for us to try something offensively. And the results we got this weekend were very, very good, and I'm hoping that continues.
I just gave myself a gold star, Coach, so thank you for that.
You deserve it. Good job. I'll be honest, I didn't think you were going to get the answer right, so good job.
Thank you. I don't know what that says.
A lot of confidence. A lot of confidence in you. Nice.
I mean, come on. We've been doing this for a while. You have zero confidence in me, Mark. I do what I can here, but No, I'm kidding. No, seriously, it's good to see because we were talking about this, and I know Elijah's got one more for you, but this is your shortstop. We had a guy call last week, and he was a nice fan, but said maybe a platoon with Lee Ellis, and I'm like, well, this isn't left field, where you can just so freely kind of platoon a guy based on what he may or may not be doing offensively. This is your shortstop, and you can't. Well, you can, but you don't want to do that with your shortstop, right?
Yeah, I would compare it to a point guard. A point guard may have a really low shooting percentage, but if he's getting assists, if he's a great floor general, if he's really leading your team and providing the right chemistry that everybody around him need, you just keep working on his shot until the shots start falling. And that's what I would compare him as our shortstop to. He's an anchor in the middle of that lineup. And we just felt like, again, Lee Ellis is a talented player, and I think he's going to be a good player, but he's just inexperienced right now, and he needs to continue to get stronger to become the kind of player that we look at in that role. So, Will has, because he's done all those other things well, it bought him some time, as I said, and I'm hoping he's a much better natural hitter right-handed because that's his natural side. So, hopefully that's something that we found a spark and something that he'll really be able to build on.
Good stuff from Coach Kingston. That's most of the interview, but there was a little bit more that we did with Mark, and the entire interview is up on our podcast page, 1075thegame.com, on the web, on the app. You can get the app at the App Store, Google Play Store, or wherever you get your apps. Are there other places to get apps beyond those two?
I don't know if there's a physical app store. I think that's all on your phone.
Okay.
Not an actual building to walk into.
That'd be kind of fun.
That would be. I don't know how that would work.
Used to have to go into a store and get all kinds of stuff.
Not anymore. No. Your phone's your store.
Look at that. But always appreciate Mark's time, even if he has almost no confidence in me whatsoever.
He did quiz you, but you know what? You're 1 for 1. You're at 100% right now.
Yeah, that was difficult too. Thank goodness I knew the answer. And I actually did, so that helps. Drive around the SEC. More on the baseball weekend and a couple of football and basketball transfers to discuss. The drive around is next.
Folks, playoff basketball has crept up on us, and this week it tips off, and there's no better way to get in on this action than my new favorite fantasy sports app, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app, and you can get in on the playoff action to win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level. Prize Picks, my favorite thing about Prize Picks is what separates it, is that it offers injury insurance. Have you ever done an entry where a player gets hurt in the first half and they can't come back the second half and it completely ruins your entire entry? Well, Prize Picks for basketball games, if you have a player who exits in the first half and does not return, Prize Picks will have your back, and it will not count it as a loss. I'm playing Prize Picks this week. I plan on winning some money with the help from my friend Steph Curry, going more on 5.5 3-pointers made. Look, scored 50 against the Kings last time in Do or Die game. I think he'll do it again. Download the app. Use promo code 1075game for a chance to get your first deposit match to $100. That's promo code 1075game. From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to report to you that are causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We're going to start here in Richland County. An accident on Killian Road near Killian Arch has caused some traffic backup, some mild traffic backup, it looks like. We also have another one on Shop Road at Pineview Drive here in Columbia. We also have one recently reported on Highway 1 at Augusta Road near North Grampian Hills Road. And lastly, it looks like we have an accident. This one was reported about 30 minutes ago, and it's causing some decent traffic backup over at Hughie Street at Blossom Street.
It is Drive Around the SEC time. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. We'll start with a lot going on around Kentucky basketball. First off, Mark Pope was introduced at Rupp Arena over the weekend. And they invited people to come. And, I mean, I was thinking, oh, you know, they'll probably get like a couple thousand. It's Kentucky basketball fans. It was free. So they filled it up. I can't call it a sellout.
He didn't sell tickets, naturally.
But Rupp was full, and they left people outside in line.
You'd have thought they hired the actual Pope.
I mean, I want to be impressed by this, and I also want to go, really?
It's something you don't get anywhere else.
22,000 plus.
For a press conference.
For an introduction. And look, he got them all fired up. They had sort of an impromptu pep rally and all the things that you would expect. Listen, I'm pulling for this guy in the sense that so many people who supposedly pull for his school pulled against his hire.
We're willing to put up the phone numbers of Mitch Barnhart's office and the athletic department on certain websites to get bombarded and harassed. We got to that level.
Yeah, which, by the way, at that point, don't you just, like, unplug the phone?
Oh, yeah. There's ways around that.
So, look, I'm not really ragging on it, but, I mean, dang, man, nothing else going on in Lexington this weekend?
No, I can confirm. Yeah, absolutely not.
That said, he's got some work to do. So we'll start with this. DJ Wagner, former top 5 national recruit in the class of 23, entered the transfer portal today. He is the son of DeJuan Wagner, who played at Memphis and in the NBA. Don't know. Yeah, listen, I mean, just because you're in the portal doesn't mean you are definitely leaving. But that's one. Another guy in the portal is the big man, the center, Zvonimir Ivicic.
Nailed it. Nice.
Thank you.
Good work.
Had a couple of nice games, had a couple of games where he didn't do all that much, but you might expect that of a freshman coming in.
Croatian sensation.
But you were telling me earlier that Ivicic is going to meet with Coach Pope, and that from your point of view in analyzing what he likes to do, that this kid could thrive in the system, yeah?
He could, because he's a good passing big. And if you look at what Mark Pope's BYU team did last year, they were a 5-out offense, and there's a lot of focus on the center being the primary playmaker. And if he is able to show he can be a primary playmaker, NBA scouts will drool over that type of stuff. Because he's got a lot of other things. He can shoot from the outside. He can play as a stretch 5. If he's able to have a passing ability and be able to show that he can be the fulcrum of an offense, I think that's going to benefit him greatly, and I think he could fit into something that Mark Pope likes to do, especially with what he did at BYU, and those were really successful offenses.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. We know that Aaron Bradshaw now, another phenom. Again, there's tons of phenom freshmen that go and play for John Calipari.
It was the number 1 class in the country.
Yeah. Has announced that he will be going to Ohio State out of the portal, visited the Buckeyes over the weekend, and committed. He's another big man, a 7'1" center. He was a top 10 player, but had an injury. I mean, he ended up playing.
Yeah.
But missed the first, half of the season, give or take?
Yeah, and then played, was I guess a fixture in the starting lineup, and then towards the end of the year couldn't get on the floor as much. He was, I don't want to say he was in Cal's doghouse, but he had a hard time getting minutes towards the end of the season in what was a pretty decently crowded Kentucky front court.
And you'll have to tell me more about this kid. I do like the name, though, but 5-star commit for next year, Boogie Fland, has asked for Kentucky to release him from his NLI. So that means he doesn't really want to talk to Mark Pope.
No. I don't think he has any intention on talking to Mark Pope, but he was definitely one of the more highly touted recruits in the country. Definitely, he's one of those, what I guess on they call a 5-star plus type player. He was one of those.
Why don't you just give him a 6-star then?
See, I wonder why we've capped it at 5. If they're that good, like if Victor Wembanyama was a high schooler in America and he was going to play college basketball,
8-star.
A 10-star. Yeah, there are not enough stars to describe exactly, the demand for somebody like that.
Break the computer that rates him.
The same way he will break the game of basketball here in the next few years.
I hope they get some players around him.
Yeah, it sucks to have a generational talent like that and still lose like 60 games.
Yeah.
Like they did this year.
Maybe
He's
that's
a
why
freak.
maybe they did it on purpose.
Maybe. Even those draft classes. Woo! It ain't much.
So there you go. So, but hey, Mark Pope again. We'll see what happens. Would you? By the way, would you see Boogie Fland going to Arkansas with Cal?
Yes.
Yeah.
DeMarcus Cousins made a really good point, and he was on a Sirius XM show with Rachel Nichols and Amin El Hassan, and he was talking about, a lot of the guys they do, like Kentucky sells itself, but at the same time, Cal is a great salesman. He said in terms of sport influence, he compared him to Deion Sanders, or people want to go where Cal is because Cal is such a fixture of the sport, such a showman, that your profile is elevated by playing on a John Calipari coach basketball team. And I thought that was an interesting point, comparing him to Deion. He's got a lot of good, smart basketball people around him, which I would push back on because they did not do much in terms of X's and O's and figuring something out with that talented roster this year, and they definitely underachieved because they were not very good at making those adjustments. But at the same time, he says what Cal does in terms of elevating the people around him in terms of just profile is what is very attractive to a lot of 16, 17, 18-year-old kids.
Yeah. No, I talk all the time, and I will never stop believing this, but in college especially, it's talent. If you have more, you'll win.
All that acquisition.
And Kentucky seems to be the exception to that rule in terms of pushing back on it. Their inability to win what they should win. I'm not saying he should have had, 10 championships, but I think it might be fair to say that with the talent he's acquired over the years, that they should have been to 8 or 9 Final Fours.
It shouldn't be since 2015.
Right.
I will say it nowhere near should be since 2015 that he's been to his last Final Four. Because they've had teams more than talented to be able to make that push.
You and I were talking about it. I think of all those Dean Smith teams that made the Final Four. It's hard to win the championship, but so many Dean Smith teams made the Final Four because they were loaded with talent. Mm-hmm. And you didn't ever really go, boy, I can't believe that Dean's failing like that. I mean, I remember when their fans were disappointed, but
yeah, it's not just that they don't make Final Fours anymore, too, which obviously is an issue to go almost a decade without it. But you look at, 2 of their last 3 exits have been against 15-seeded St. Peter's and 14-seeded Oakland, and that should never happen. No. Once, maybe, sure, you can get away with once because that's what happens in the sport.
Right.
But for it to be now a trend is, I would say, pretty disturbing for people that were fans of Kentucky.
We'll see if he changes enough to make it work at Arkansas. One football note for you. Georgia running back Andrew Paul is in the portal after Georgia's spring game. Only rushed for a little over 100 yards total last season. I can tell you this, as long as he transfers within this portal window to somewhere else, it will not be within the Southeastern Conference. The SEC has a rule that prohibits transfers intra-conference in the spring football portal. So Andrew Paul will likely be playing in some other conference next season.
Interesting.
So there you go.
I didn't know that was a rule.
Yeah, in the spring. Spring only.
Only in the spring.
Spring only. Spring only.
That's how you get past the antitrust.
We'll conclude the drive around the SEC with everything that happened in the baseball weekend as the postgame show continues. All right, welcome back in. Final few minutes of the post-game show. We'll conclude the drive around the SEC. I do have an update on the Cam Scott story that continues to unfold. We'll get that for you in just a second, but let me conclude the drive around real quick here. 3 sweeps this weekend in SEC baseball. Kentucky sweeps Auburn down on the Plains. Tennessee sweeps LSU in Baton Rouge. LSU is struggling, y'all. And A&M swept Vanderbilt. Ole Miss took 2 of 3 from State. Bama 2 of 3 from Arkansas. Alabama's a pretty good baseball team. And Georgia took 2 of 3 from Missouri. We already told you a lot about Carolina taking 2 of 3 from Florida. So the standings right now, conference games only look like this. We'll start in the East, where Kentucky is an incredibly impressive 14-1. Tennessee is 10-5. Vandy and Carolina 8-7. Georgia and Florida 7-8. Missouri is 5-10. Arkansas 12-3 out west. They'll be in Columbia this weekend. A&M is 11-4. Mississippi State 7-8. Bama 6-9, Ole Miss 5-10, LSU 3-12, Auburn 2-12. And I apologize. I think Kentucky. Hang on. Kentucky and Auburn play tonight. So I'm sorry.
How about that?
Yeah. My bad. They conclude their series tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
What would be really funny is Auburn winning that game, because we talked. We have both ragged on Missouri and Auburn a lot this year, being kind of the ugly ducklings of the conference. Kentucky's only loss this year in the SEC is to Missouri.
Yeah.
So this would ultimately round us out in terms of their only losses being to the bad teams in the conference.
The biggest surprise is definitely LSU right now. I don't know if it's. Am I more surprised? I'm more surprised that LSU is 3-12 maybe than I am that Kentucky only has 1 loss.
I've noticed a curse here. Think of the last 3 national champions: LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. The year after they all won their championships, they had bad next seasons.
They missed the playoffs.
Yeah. LSU would make it 3 straight.
Tournament.
Yeah, there you go.
I like playoffs, but whatever.
I'm disgusted with myself that I even went with.
I know. See, I sucked you into the trap there, man.
I know. And I regret it immediately.
I know.
But they missed the NCAA tournament both times. And LSU would make it the 3rd straight national champion to miss the tournament the following season from the SEC.
Playoffs?
We're talking tournament, Jim.
Playoffs? That's a drive around the SEC brought to you by Herndon Chevy. You can save $20,000 on new Silverado. Chevy, together, let's drive. All right, let's get you an update on what's going on with Cam Scott. The Lexington basketball superstar had committed and signed with Texas back in the fall/winter signing period, then led Lexington to a state championship. Will leave the Wildcat program as their all-time leading scorer. But it was announced earlier today that he had requested to be released from his national letter of intent. And I can tell you before I read this statement from Cam that has been granted. Mm-hmm. So he is now, once again, a recruiting free agent, if you will. His statement today, first and foremost, I would like to thank the city of Austin, the Texas men's basketball staff, as well as Longhorn Nation, for the love and support up to this point. With private family matters and long thought-out conversations with my family, I have requested a release from a national letter of intent with the University of Texas and will be looking to stay closer to my loved ones as I pursue the next steps in my basketball career. Special thank you to Coach Rodney Terry and staff for being transparent with me throughout this process and always having my back. Please respect my decision. Thank you, Cam Scott, who, by the way, has his own logo, which is kind of cool.
I know.
Yeah, I didn't know he had that. That's not bad. And it's a pretty cool logo, too.
One of his electrifying dunks.
I like that. So there you go. Kind of cryptic, closer to home. We'll remind you, Florida State, Alabama, and Auburn were amongst his finalists. So was South Carolina, obviously. Mississippi, which is a little farther away than the 2 Alabama schools. But, and I'm going to sit here and kind of, I'm saying this a little tongue-in-cheek. I was just telling Elijah, Nate Oates and Bruce Pearl can sail. Son, that's only a 5-hour drive. It's a little farther to Tuscaloosa than it is to Auburn. It's a little easier to get to Auburn. You got to go through Atlanta to get to either one of them. You can just shoot down 85 to get down past Columbus and go to Auburn a little quicker than you can to go through on 20 and on the other side of Birmingham. But neither one are all that far away. I do know that the University of South Carolina is considerably closer to Lexington than either Auburn or Tuscaloosa. And Oxford is about another 2 hours away after that. So
yeah, Oxford's quite the drive.
It's pretty far. I don't know what closer to home means. Tallahassee is probably, 6 or 7 hours. So that's, I don't know. I don't know what the parameters are. I realize that Austin's about halfway across the country. I don't know if other schools north of us are interested in Cam Scott. Anybody would be. Again, this is a dynamite kid. So I'm supposing. I don't know. You tell me, Elijah. You know more than this on this than I do. I mean, North Carolina, NC State. NC State just had a heck of a run. At Tennessee and Rick Barnes, that's only about 5 hours away. I don't know.
I will say, yeah, whenever he did commit to Texas, he did say that South Carolina was his number 2, and that South Carolina made it real. They were really close. Right. Someone asked, when we had the media availability with him the day that he announced his decision to commit to Texas and sign with Texas, that someone asked how close was South Carolina to being able to be getting your services on the hardwood next year, and he said very close. Yeah. Didn't elaborate too much, but he said very close. I think there's good reason to believe that South Carolina is the front runner. Don't know anything else other than that, but I do, I took him at his word when he said that, South Carolina made a really good pitch to him and that it was an intriguing and enticing offer, that they were a close second. So I guess if, we're setting odds here, the best odds might be South Carolina right now, but at this point, too, with other teams trying to get in transfer portal additions, it's a mad scramble to get some type of a roster going right now. I think, his phone is probably very active right now.
We've reached out to a couple of people, hadn't heard anything yet. I don't know how quickly this will transpire now that he's been released. Again, you couldn't have contact with him otherwise, at least not officially. So do you really, truly reopen the full recruiting process? We'll keep you updated on that one. Thanks to Mark Kingston for joining us, Bill McDonald as well. For Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Enjoy the rest of the Monday. Do it all again tomorrow right here at 3 o'clock. See y'all. And one final note about our friends at AAA Heating and Air. Listen, y'all, the heat is now upon us. It's going to be in the 80s this week, maybe even into the 90s. Beat the seasons with AAA Heating and Air all across the Midlands. And if it's time for a system upgrade, Roy and Dana Finley ready to get you a free replacement estimate so you know exactly what's in front of you. You can get that by logging on to call888today.com. That's call888today.com. And you're saying, new system now? I don't know if I can afford that. Listen, they've got terrific guaranteed financing options. They've got 12 months, no payments or interest. And on top of that, if it's time for this new investment for you and your family, you get the 15-year parts and labor guarantee. Take advantage of what the folks at AAA Heating and Air can do for you and your family. Do what my family has done. Stay comfortable all the time with AAA Heating and Air. Again, call AAAtoday.com, 803-677-1500. AAA Heating and Air.